Hashtag 42 times men tried to kill Adolf Hitler. Bombs under tables, poison in his food, snipers waiting in the snow. Every single plot failed, sometimes by minutes, sometimes by pure chance. But on the 43rd attempt, something different happened. This is the story of the men who risked everything to stop one of history's greatest monsters, and the strange, brutal luck that kept him alive again and again, until the very end finally caught up with him. Hitler was not just a dictator surrounded by loyal followers. Inside his own military and government, a hidden resistance grew year after year. Generals, aristocrats, priests, and ordinary soldiers concluded that only his death could stop the war and the atrocities being committed in Germany's name. Between 1921 and 1945, historians count at least 42 serious attempts on his life. Most never even made the news. Almost none came close enough for the public to ever learn their names. The earliest plots came from unexpected places: disgruntled soldiers, political rivals, even a Swiss theology student who fired a pistol at a Nazi rally in 1932 and missed. As Hitler consolidated power through the 1930s, security around him tightened, but so did the desperation of those who saw what he was building. By the time the war began in 1939, killing him had become, for a small circle of Germans, the only remaining way to save their country from itself. On November 8, 1939, a carpenter named Georg Elser planted a bomb inside a pillar at Munich's Bürgerbräukeller, where Hitler gave a speech every year marking the 1923 Putsch anniversary. Elser had spent weeks secretly hollowing out the column by hand. The timer was set perfectly. But that night, Hitler cut his speech short and left the building 13 minutes early to catch a train. The bomb exploded exactly on schedule, killing 8 people. Hitler was already gone. Elser was arrested that same night trying to cross into Switzerland. The Gestapo refused to believe one man had built the device alone, convinced it was a British intelligence operation. He was tortured, interrogated for years, and eventually executed at Dachau in 1945, just weeks before the war ended. Hitler's survival that night was pure coincidence, a change in travel schedule that no plotter could have predicted, and it would not be the last time chance saved his life. By 1938, a more organized resistance had formed inside the German military itself. Officers in the Abwehr, Germany's intelligence service, began quietly recruiting others who shared their growing horror at the regime. General Ludwig Beck, Hans Oster, and later Henning von Treschow became central figures in this underground network. They understood that only someone with direct access to Hitler, a soldier, an aide, someone trusted enough to get close, could ever hope to succeed. In March 1943, Henning von Treschow devised one of the most creative plots of the war. He disguised a British-made bomb as a package of 2 cognac bottles and asked an unsuspecting officer to carry it aboard Hitler's personal aircraft as a gift for a colleague in Berlin. The timer was set. The plane took off with Hitler aboard, flying over occupied territory, while the conspirators waited anxiously for news that his aircraft had gone down somewhere over Poland. The plane landed safely. The bomb's detonator, likely damaged by the extreme cold in the unheated cargo hold, had simply failed to ignite. Treschow spent an agonizing night before quietly retrieving the package himself, telling the courier he'd sent the wrong parcel by mistake. Hitler never learned how close he had come to dying 30,000 feet over enemy territory. The conspirators, shaken but undeterred, began planning their next attempt almost immediately. Other plots followed in quick succession. Officer Axel von Dembusk volunteered to strap explosives to his own body and detonate them while showing Hitler new military uniforms, a suicide mission canceled only when the demonstration was destroyed in an Allied bombing raid before it could happen. Ewald von Kleist offered himself the same way soon after. Each time, circumstance intervened before the plotters ever got close enough to act on their plans. By 1944, One man would bring the resistance closer to success than anyone before him, Colonel Claus von Stauffenberg. A decorated aristocrat and devout Catholic, Stauffenberg had lost his left eye, his right hand, and 2 fingers on his left hand in North Africa. Despite his severe injuries, he retained a position close to Hitler's inner military circle, and, unlike earlier plotters, he had both the access and the unshakable resolve to finally see the plan through. Stauffenberg and his fellow conspirators built their plan around Operation Valkyrie, originally a legitimate emergency protocol for the German Reserve Army to seize control in case of internal chaos. The plotters secretly rewrote it into a blueprint for their own coup. If Hitler could be killed, Valkyrie would activate, the army would move against the SS and Nazi leadership, and a new government could seize power before the regime even understood what had happened. Here, fate intervened once again. The meeting had been unexpectedly moved from Hitler's usual reinforced concrete bunker to a lighter wooden briefing hut nearby, due to renovation work underway that summer. The wooden structure, with its open windows, would prove far less lethal for a bomb blast than the sealed concrete walls of the bunker Stauffenberg had planned for. It was a detail nobody in the resistance could have anticipated or controlled. At 12:42 p.m., the bomb detonated with tremendous force, tearing through the wooden hut and killing 4 men instantly. Yet Hitler survived. Moments before the blast, an officer had shifted the briefcase behind the thick leg of the oak table, unknowingly shielding Hitler from the worst of the explosion. Combined with the open windows that let the blast wave escape rather than concentrate, this single accidental repositioning saved his life. Hitler emerged from the wreckage shaken, his trousers shredded, his hair singed, and his hearing permanently damaged in one ear, but alive. Remarkably, he insisted on meeting Italian dictator Benito Mussolini for a scheduled visit that very same afternoon, showing him the ruined briefing hut as proof of his survival. To Hitler and his followers, surviving the blast felt like confirmation of destiny. To the plotters, it meant catastrophic, irreversible failure. Believing Hitler dead, Stauffenberg had already flown back to Berlin to launch Valkyrie. But as news spread that Hitler survived, the coup collapsed within hours. Stauffenberg and 3 co-conspirators were arrested that same night and executed by firing squad in a courtyard just after midnight. The Gestapo's investigation that followed was merciless. Nearly 5,000 people were arrested, and roughly 200 were executed in the brutal purge that followed. Looking back across all 42 attempts, one pattern stands out. Hitler was never saved by superior security or extraordinary vigilance. He survived through sheer repeated coincidence, a shortened speech, a frozen detonator, a table leg, a moved meeting room. Each time, the margin between success and failure came down to seconds or inches, decided not by skill, but by chance, events entirely outside anyone's control. After July 20th, Hitler grew increasingly paranoid and isolated, trusting almost no one in his own military. He retreated deeper into secrecy, eventually moving into the underground forebunker beneath the Reich Chancellery in Berlin, as Allied and Soviet forces closed in. During early 1945, the war he refused to end was now reaching the heart of his own capital, and the man who had survived every assassin's plot could not escape the collapse of the empire he had built. On April 30th, 1945, with Soviet troops just blocks from the Chancellery, Adolf Hitler took his own life inside the Führerbunker. No assassin's bullet, no hidden bomb, no British detonator ever succeeded where 42 attempts had failed. In the end, it was not resistance fighters or military conspirators who finally ended his life. It was Hitler himself, cornered by the very war and destruction he had unleashed on the world, choosing his own death over capture.